It's Stephen Wardell Curry doing what he does. And folks, great things happen when Kuminga plays. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow Kylen Mills on all social media platforms at her name. It's super easy at Kylen Mills. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. What a game, Kylen. That was a thriller. They were borderline left for dead in that third and fourth quarter. A comeback mounted. Stephen Wardell Curry hitting one of, I think is going to go down as one of his wildest, greatest shots ever to cap off an incredible performance. My faith in Steve Kerr is restored considerably after tonight because we actually saw the youngsters, Kuminga, Trayce Jackson-Davis. They were seeing minutes, important minutes to close this game. Moses Moody was playing important minutes. The Warriors win a thriller, a huge game. I'm elated. I'm ecstatic. Kylen, great to see you. What is your reaction and how the heck are you doing?
Great to see you, Cyrus. I am in good spirits, as all of Dub Nation should be, because the Warriors finally won a close game. They said at some point during the TNT broadcast, this was their 23rd game where they were within 5 points late in the fourth quarter. And every single time they've lost, they've been losing close game after close game. Finally, the Warriors finished. You could feel them with that strong play in the fourth quarter, carry that momentum into overtime. It felt like the Warriors were in control, and they finished this one out. Couple of good defensive possessions. Boston kind of rushed a couple of possessions early there in OT. I don't know why they were so quick to shoot some threes early in the shot clock. And then the big thing for me was the youngsters getting significant minutes, as you just pointed out. Jonathan Kuminga playing there at the end. Trayce Jackson-Davis, learn the name. Him getting to play almost the entire fourth quarter and all of the overtime period was the biggest highlight for me, because when given the opportunity, he stepped up. It was something that should have happened a long time ago. Kevon Looney has not been playing great this season. It is what it is. Dub Nation loves Kevon, but he hasn't been producing. Trayce Jackson-Davis should have been given an opportunity sooner. I was happy, though, that it happened tonight. Kevon Looney, only 14 minutes. He essentially got benched. And to be honest, it was warranted. I wonder if Kevon is injured or something, because I know he's had back issues ongoing. I don't know. He hasn't looked like himself. But regardless, great to see Trayce Jackson-Davis getting the opportunity he deserved and taking advantage of it. That block on Jaylen Brown, oh my goodness. I was screaming when that happened. That was unbelievable. He made a couple other great plays, and just looking at his stat line before I toss it back to you, Cyrus, Trayce Jackson-Davis getting 29 minutes, a huge positive, 10 points, 13 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 blocks, a team best plus 25. He only turned it over once, did have 3 fouls, but all around a great performance from Trayce Jackson-Davis, the rookie, stepping up in critical moments, playing at the end of the game when the Warriors needed him, and he was able to deliver. That block, man, that's got to go down as one of the best plays by a Warriors rookie. I mean, that was unbelievable. I thought it was great as well to see Jonathan Kuminga getting important minutes and big minutes as well in terms of volume. 34 minutes for JK, 17 points, 7 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, just 1 turnover, and no fouls, which is huge. Very solid on the defensive end for JK. Moses Moody still didn't break the 20-minute mark, so if I'm going to nitpick, that's the one complaint for me. He had played 17 minutes and had 10 points. Didn't do a whole lot else in the stat sheet. Wasn't his most efficient night, but I still think he's been good this season. But we'll take what we can get. Trayce Jackson-Davis, Jonathan Kuminga closing out this game were the 2 keys to the Warriors winning. Let's see more of that, less of the older guys who flat out aren't playing well.
Absolutely. And in all honesty, you're right. If we're going to nitpick, those Moody minutes could have come from the brief stint we saw from Corey Joseph, which was, I think, driving everybody insane for a brief moment. And then Kuminga, I mean, again, Steve Kerr, kudos. It took you much longer than myself and a lot of other people were hoping for, but We saw the Trayce Jackson-Davis minutes were huge. I mean,
yep.
It's just crazy. This is what happens, folks, when the Warriors play individuals who are big and athletic. They win big games. They beat good teams. It's what we've been saying time and time and again. What did you think about? There was a moment as well that where Kuminga played defense on Jason Tatum. I think it was to end of regulation, and Jason and Tatum put up a three that would have won it. And you saw Stephen Curry just going to Kuminga, elated, thrilled at his defensive effort. Well, any reaction from you in terms of how the game ended? And also your thoughts as well on where the Warriors were in the third quarter. They were trailing by, I think, like 11 at one point. The game looked like it was lost. What did you see in terms of the game turning around, leading to the Warriors finally taking a lead and then eventually winning? What was the turning point, in your opinion?
The turning point. That's a good question. I do think that, like you said, Jonathan Kuminga was great down the stretch. Just to go back to the initial point that you made about that last play, Steph Curry was just happy that someone was out there playing defense. The Warriors have needed that defensively, and it was a good contested three by JK. Pointed it out. He didn't foul once in this game. That's a major positive, because sometimes he does run into problems when he gets undisciplined defensively and starts committing fouls. He did a good job of just staying on him and contesting without fouling on that 3-point shot from Tatum. So I love seeing Steph Curry fired up, and it was just good to see that type of defensive effort from Jonathan Kuminga while staying in control, not fouling in this entire game. It is concerning. The Warriors seem to have an issue with third quarters, because I just brought it up the other night that they used to be really strong in third quarters, and that was their quarter that they went off, and it hasn't been happening lately. I think it was a big positive to see the way they battled back, though. This, to me, was the most heart and intensity this team has shown. I'm trying to think, I don't know if I can pinpoint one turning point, but I just was happy to see that the Warriors continued to battle. They didn't get flustered either. Like sometimes we've seen late in games, they start turning the ball over down the stretch of the fourth quarter. Even Steph Curry has fallen victim to that this season a couple times, where you're like, Steph is just carelessly losing the basketball. And then one play leads to another and they lose a close game. This time they were in control, but they were still able to battle back. So the way they finish out this game, major positive. Did you recognize a turning point? Do you feel like there was a certain play or anything?
I think it was, I don't know if it was a single play, but I think it was, well, first of all, I think we were all bummed out and a little discouraged by the Brandon Pajemski news. And I'm really hoping that isn't anything serious. Anything lower back is always an eyebrow raiser, because that's the kind of injury that can keep you out a long time. It can linger. So, and again, like we saw Corey Joseph in there for a moment. For me, it was the end of the third, early fourth. And I'm with you. I don't know if it was a specific play, but it was more of a momentum shift as a whole. Seeing Stephen Curry coming back early. Steph was in foul trouble. I saw someone in the chat bring up that the Kerr, and I agree. I think he botched the challenges tonight, because Stephen Curry's third and fourth fouls were blatantly obvious from what I saw on the camera, that you could have challenged that and gotten one of those reversed. And then when Steph got his fifth foul, that's when Kerr challenges. There was no chance in hell you're going to win that. And so, but anyways, we saw Steph come back in the early fourth quarter with those 5 fouls. And to me, that's when the momentum started shifting. Look, this whole thing is all Steph. It's everything when it comes to this Warriors dynasty. It always starts with Steph, in my humble opinion. And I think that's the fourth quarter when he came back in that early. We don't usually see Steph coming in at the 11-minute mark or the very start of the fourth. He was in there very early, and then slowly the momentum started turning around. So what a game. Hell of a game. We're going to have a lot more to discuss. A wild victory for the Golden State Warriors. I believe their first overtime victory of the season as well. That's been a part of their game that struggled mightily this year.
They just have not been good in these tight game situations at all. OTs, late in games, it just has not clicked.
Correct. Absolutely right. And we're reading all the chat comments. So if anybody has anything they want to share, we'll read it. But first and foremost, though, let's give some love to our sponsors who help us pay the bills. And we're going to start with eBay Motors, which is all about, besides their usual business model of, I don't even know what they do these days. Is it still auctioning items? Is the premise of eBay still bidding on objects that you want. Kylen, have you been on there recently? Like
yeah,
in terms
yeah.
of
I actually was looking at something on there. Yeah, you can bid. You can buy things outright or you can bid.
Gotcha. So because one facet of eBay that's taken off is this eBay Motors. It's getting parts for your vehicle. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft, scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So, Kylen, you and I went through these players on yesterday's show. I'll read them to you again. And those 5 players again, Brandon Pajemski, who again had the back injury today. Let's really hope he's okay, because this kid, I think you and I both are in agreement. He's phenomenal. He's awesome. And an added bonus that the Warriors won this game without him. That's another huge hurdle that they had to overcome. So, Brandon Pajemski, Terry Eason, Grayson Allen, James Wiseman, and Malachi Branham of the Spurs. Which one of those five would you like to read Josh Lloyd's insights on tonight?
I don't know. You pick.
I'll go with Grayson Allen just because he's a division rival.
I don't want. Okay, go for it.
So Grayson Allen with Bradley Beal out again. And side note, Bradley Beal is quickly pulling a Mr. Glass act here. What a disappointment for Suns fans. So Grayson Allen's getting minutes with Bradley Beal out, and he should see strong minutes and a nice increased usage role for the next few weeks. So fantasy players, Grayson Allen could be a good pickup for you. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Sure, the Locked On National program is going to be highlighting tonight's game, and because Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. You can follow Kylen Mills again on all social media platforms. It's super easy. Your name at Kylen Mills. Again, you can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. Kylen, I know it's just one game, okay? And Dub Nation is elated. We're all giddy right now. At least I certainly am. Bigger picture here. Does this one game open your eyes a little bit in terms of potential trades for some of the veterans that the Warriors have on this roster? Andrew Wiggins has clearly fallen out of favor. I don't know if it's too soon to bring this up now, but why not? Andrew Wiggins has fallen out of favor a little bit. Jonathan Kuminga, again, I've certainly been advocating for him to play over Wiggins. I think he has earned those minutes in that starting role there. Trayce Jackson-Davis, clearly we want to see more of him develop and grow as a future big. I'm not suggesting we trade Kevon Looney. I actually would not want to do that personally, but Draymond Green might be another player to keep in mind. Are you ready? Is there any thought of entertaining the idea of trading a Draymond Green, trading an Andrew Wiggins? Those are the two players that come to mind for me. Do you think other teams want them? What are your thoughts on talking trade, if this is even the right time for it?
I don't know that I want to say trade yet, but I think neither of those individual players, Andrew Wiggins or Draymond Green, would be a bad idea. I know a lot of people are saying trade Draymond. My only concern with a Draymond trade is that it's something that Steph Curry and Klay Thompson have to be okay with and sign off on. So, like, my big concern is the chemistry and culture piece for the Warrior with Draymond. Like, playing wise, and in terms of the talent and like what the team needs, like I am not opposed to that at all. A lot of people are, saying they would like to see that in the chat. I get it, but at the same time, I don't think that Steph and Klay would be okay with that. Those guys have been sitting on the team plane every single trip for the last 10 years. I just think it would be majorly disruptive to the team's chemistry. So to me, that makes Andrew Wiggins the more expendable piece because he came so much later on in the journey. But I don't know that you necessarily have to go as far as trading people yet. And I still think that Wiggins, could he turn things around? I don't know. But I just think the big issue for me has been the usage of the players the Warriors have and the way that Steve Kerr has utilized the rotation. To me, if you get the right guys playing the right amount of minutes and in the right situations, I still think this team wins a lot of these close games that they've recently lost. You also have to keep in mind through their first 20 games, the Warriors had one of the toughest schedules in the NBA, which I do believe has led to their record. They lost close games to good teams, or at least teams above 500. And I think that with some tweaks to who's playing and the amount of minutes they're playing, the Warriors could win and still be dangerous in the postseason. We saw tonight the way that they were able to finish a game against a strong Eastern Conference team with young guys playing. To me, that has to obviously be the recipe for success moving forward. Jonathan Kuminga, Trayce Jackson-Davis, I think have made a case for both of them to be starters. And Moses Moody, to me, his play all season long has warranted for him to be a key rotational piece. One question I have for you, I want to toss it back, is did Trayce Jackson-Davis do enough to become the starter?
Yes, absolutely. I agree that and I'm loving the chat tonight. It's been a long time. It might be the first time all year where I feel like we're all in unison in terms of positive vibes, at least since the start of the season. And the consensus from the chat is, why make a trade? I agree. In my humble opinion, if Draymond Green and Wiggins accept a smaller role, accept a secondary role where they become your bench, you might be onto something. But I absolutely loved seeing Kuminga and Trayce Jackson-Davis finish this game tonight, especially Kuminga. And honestly, same with Trayce Jackson-Davis. They were huge. So, yeah, to answer your question, I absolutely think Trayce Jackson-Davis could start. But my bigger focus has always been, and I'm going to get a soundbite soon to play on the show regularly, the one from Greg Popovich, where he said, if Manu Ginobili can come off the bench, anybody can come off the bench. It's not so much about who's starting, it's about who's finishing. And I loved who the Warriors finished with tonight. I think 4 of the 5 pieces, in my humble opinion, are set in stone. Steph, Klay, Kuminga, and Trayce Jackson-Davis. Those 4 to me should be finishing every game. The 5th tonight was Chris Paul. It worked out, but I think that could be interchangeable. You can swap Chris Paul for Podziemski. You can swap Chris Paul for Moses Moody. Whoever that 5th is, that's I think that could be dependent on matchups. But I agree with the chat, and I don't know. What do you think? If Draymond and Wiggins, if they're accepting of that smaller role, meaning taking 15 to 20 minutes a game, meaning at times not playing in the most pivotal moments, if they're okay with that, I'm actually cool with that too. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm cool with it. I think Andrew Wiggins, not that he had a great night tonight, but the other night played great off the bench. That can be a major positive for the Warriors. And they've been trying to solidify their second unit in that rotation. I mean, Chris Paul, Andrew Wiggins coming in off the bench when they get Gary Payton II healthy, Kevon Looney, I think that's a great second unit that could compete with any bench in the league. So I don't think that's a bad idea. I do want to quickly mention, though, I completely agree with what you were saying about the closing lineup, that finally Klay Thompson hit some threes. Steph Curry, you already pointed out, had a great night from beyond the arc after scoring just 7. He comes back with a huge performance. So just want to give them a quick shout out. It was good to see Klay Thompson knock down some triples, 6 of 15 from beyond the arc. And then Steph Curry hit 6 threes as well, 6 of 11, which is ridiculous. And you pointed out how ridiculous a couple of those late ones were. I mean, my goodness, it's just insane what he can do. But shout out to those two, because Curry and Thompson stepped up tonight, so they deserve the love for that. And then it was the young guys who took center stage. I agree. I think that can be a recipe for success for the Warriors. I still think the others can contribute off the bench if they can, like you said, embrace those roles.
Yep.
And
exactly.
Honestly, it's not even, it's not even really a minimized role, because like you said, starting isn't everything. Who's finishing is important. You can still get significant minutes coming in off the bench. Chris Paul played 35 tonight.
Yeah.
He didn't start. So you know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, I just feel like there's an unnecessary emphasis put on who starts sometimes for players who've been around the league for so long. Like it's some kind of major ego hit. And like, I get it, but at the same time, you can still be a key contributor coming in off the bench. And who cares if you win a championship? Who cares if you win a title?
Absolutely.
So I think that it could work. I think it all could work. I mean, to me, this was a statement win, and this was one the Warriors needed badly. And I think that there were a lot of things shown in terms of what these young guys are capable of that Steve Kerr has to pay attention to.
Yep. Wholeheartedly agree. And look, there are other young players who might be ready for a bigger stage. Guy Santos has been playing incredibly for Santa Cruz. So has Lester Quinones. Usman Garuba, still waiting to see how he could maybe play. The point is, the Warriors might not need to make a move. And Mike Dunleavy Jr. said himself, these next 15, 20 games are going to be huge. He's looking at the record in terms of them being above 500. He alluded to the fact that if 15, 20 games from now, referring to a few games ago, if they're still below 500, you might see some big changes coming. But if these veterans are accepting of a diminished role, I'm feeling great about this team. We have a lot more to talk about to wrap up the show. What a night. This was a momentous game for the Golden State Warriors, beating a team that many are calling the best in the NBA. A Boston Celtics squad that right now FanDuel is favoring to win the title. The Warriors just stepped in there, and granted it took overtime, but they also were missing Draymond Green, missing Gary Payton II, and still coming away with a victory. That Stephen Curry three, that last one, by the way, with the shot clock winding down, that was, I mean, I don't know if he even was able to take a look at the basket when he put up that shot. It was like a catch, and just the split-second reaction was incredible.
No, and the release is ridiculous. Like, he doesn't even catch it. It's insane.
It is. It really is. He is the Joe Montana of the NBA when it comes to Bay Area legends and lore. It's absolutely incredible. So we're going to have one final segment coming up here. Kudos to the Golden State Warriors for a fantastic victory tonight in overtime. And time to give some love to another sponsor of ours, something that, look, when the Warriors aren't winning, tonight is not maybe the best night to bring up therapy, just because if you're a Warriors fan watching this program, you're giddy, you're feeling good, but that has not been the case for a lot of this season. And look, regardless of how the Warriors do, there are a lot of serious things going on in life, and that's where sometimes you might need help. I mean, the world can overwhelm you. And so tonight's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba and get on your way to being your best self. One of the Warriors players right now, Draymond Green, is seeking help. And who knows if BetterHelp is the right solution for him, but it might be the right solution for you. And there's a lot of huge perks with BetterHelp, besides the fact that, again, mental health is a serious thing. I hope none of you ever look at seeking help for any mental issues as, there being a stigma attached to that. Again, life is hard. Okay. The world is crazy. It's okay if you're just not feeling right and you want to seek out help. And with BetterHelp, you can save time instead of going to an office, instead of wasting money on gas. You can do it right from the comfort of your home. You can also keep switching up therapists until you find one that is right for you. So there's a lot of perks when it comes to BetterHelp. And in the season of giving, do give yourself what you need with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
One final segment. Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For the everydayers, we might be off a day or two. Regardless, at a minimum, we'll be back Friday night for Warriors postgame. If anything big happens, obviously we'll be behind the mic again, talking it up here. But definitely join us at a minimum Friday night, just because we've had 4 shows in a row dating back to Saturday. Shaquille O'Neal on TNT's postgame show, Kylen. I don't know if you saw this. And folks, you can follow Kylen Mills on all social media platforms at Kylen Mills. Super easy. Shaquille O'Neal, who's always been incredibly respectful when it comes to any Stephen Curry discussion, just said on the broadcast tonight that Stephen Curry should be in the discussion for the best player of all time. I've said repeatedly that if the Warriors win a 5th championship, he deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore of NBA players, meaning top 4. What are your thoughts on that? Is Stephen Curry in the discussion? What is your reaction to Shaquille O'Neal giving Steph mad love?
Absolutely. I know that Shaquille O'Neal has spoken highly of Steph Curry in the past. You know, the respect is there and that he admires his game. And I do think that Steph belongs on Mount Rushmore. I mean, the fact of the matter is he's already won all these titles. One more would be icing on the cake for sure, but I think he's already there. Not only has Steph Curry accomplished so much winning with the Golden State Warriors, but he completely changed the game of basketball. The way he shoots the 3 and came into the league and took the league by storm transformed the way that smaller guards were able to come into the league and be able to make an impact shooting the 3 ball. I think teams around the league started turning to the 3 ball more. Like, he was a catalyst to, I think, a change in the complexion of the game and the way it's played in the NBA. Like, I just don't know how many other players that you can look at aside from Steph Curry who like changed the way the game is, if that makes any sense. Like, the way that teams started shooting the 3 so much more and the volume went up because of the success Steph Curry was able to have. And then Klay Thompson being a splash brother as well. And the way the Warriors were able to run this really fast motion offense, fire up a lot of 3s. It's a fun, exciting style of basketball. It did change the NBA. And so I just think he's a transcendent talent. He's a generational talent. He transcends basketball, and so he should be up there in the Mount Rushmore, and he already is in my mind.
Awesome. Yeah, and Shaq's always been super respectful. Charles Barkley, not so much. The individual who said the Warriors were cooked, it gives him no chance of doing anything this season. He naturally, I don't know what happened to him tonight. He wasn't in the broadcast. Quick Strike, by the way, who's been incredibly defensive of Klay Thompson, asking me to give some love to Steve Kerr. I already did it at the beginning of the show. Thanks for tuning in for the whole thing. Why don't we hear from Trayce Jackson Davis, who is on Kylen with your network. I'm really excited for you, Kylen. At some point later this year, you're going to be on NBC Sports Bay Area. Can we talk about this? Am I jumping the gun?
No, I think I'll talk about it later. Let's not.
Okay. Right, all right, fair enough. I won't go any further than that. But NBC Sports Bay Area had a chance to interview Trayce Jackson Davis. And what do we hear from the Warriors center on his performance tonight, speaking with the NBC crew?
Earlier this season, Steve Kerr was saying that he wanted to get you out there, but you still weren't getting out there regularly. Now you've been out there. You're showing them what you can do. What have you learned? What have you learned during the time you were sort of sitting and watching from the bench or wherever you were? What have you learned about the way the NBA works?
Just first off, getting out there, I trust my coaches and what they're doing, their philosophies, and just watching the game and seeing how coverages work, seeing how to get my teammates open. We got 2 of the best shooters in basketball. So really just studying it, where to be on the defensive end of the floor, how to guard ball screens. And my assistant coaches are walking me through that as well. So but always staying ready in the back of my mind. You never know when your name's going to get called.
Absolutely. Kylen, you asked me a question, and I never really had a chance to turn it back on you, because I'd love to know your thoughts. Should Trayce Jackson Davis be the starter?
Yes. To me, Trayce Jackson Davis did enough to start. I want to see him start. He earned it. Let's give him the opportunity. Kevon Looney has not been up to par this season. I love Kevon Looney. I appreciate everything he's done for the Warriors. He's a beloved member of the Warriors organization and of Dub Nation. Great person. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know, because he's never been quick, but he's just looked slow. He's not been great defensively. He never did a lot offensively either. And I just think he has been below average this season. He would be great in the second unit, but I don't think he's a starting center in this league with the way the league is right now. The Warriors need Trayce Jackson-Davis. He's more athletic, his ability to be a rim protector, great passer. Had a couple of good looks tonight. There's just such a major upside. I think it's time to usher in that young talent. I think he has a higher ceiling and he deserves the opportunity to play more. And I think that the way that he played tonight proves that he can hang with the big boys. Give him the opportunity to start. Kevon Looney, unfortunately, I think needed to be relegated to the bench a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely. I'm totally with you.
Like I said, at least play, a backup center role. Like I'm not saying, he doesn't ever deserve to play, but a starting five in this league, when you look at the other centers around the NBA in the Western Conference, like it's just not going to cut it. And the fact that Kevon Looney looks even slower and just like even struggling even more defensively, it's not good enough. And to me, Trayce Jackson-Davis showed that he can play at that level.
Absolutely. And I love what David Durfee or Durfee, apologies for the potential mispronunciation, writing, if we've noticed that Kuminga puts someone on a poster every game. Oh, you're damn right I've noticed. I wanted to add something to this. And Kylen, I don't know if you've noticed, and I've been noticing this since his rookie year. Kuminga can deliver with his left as good as his right. Something that is not discussed enough. And he's been doing this every game where he's like when you see, for example, Kuminga defending Jason Tatum, you see his approach is very simple. Make Tatum beat you with his left, right? But when you are ambidextrous, like Stephen Curry is, like Kuminga appears to be, you're damn near unstoppable. I don't know if you've noticed that. And Kylen, any final words on just tonight's incredible performance from this entire team?
Big win for the Warriors, statement win, much needed win, signature win, whatever you want to call it. It was huge. Jonathan Kuminga, I think, has played well recently. He was excellent tonight. That steal and then going the other way to start out overtime, I thought was a huge momentum swing for the Warriors. They already were carrying the momentum, I guess, into overtime, but still, I think that was one that got the guys going and really helped bolster the confidence of this group in that overtime period. He was fantastic. That big block from Trayce Jackson-Davis, in addition to a lot of his play throughout the night, he was outstanding. I just think this was a huge, huge positive, big performance from the young guys. Let's see some changes, Steve Kerr. I want Jonathan Kuminga and Trayce Jackson-Davis to be the starting front court for the Warriors moving forward. Let's see how it works.
Absolutely. Trayce Jackson-Davis and Kuminga 100% need to be the starting front court for this team, or at least the finishing front court, however it is. Folks, this was a huge game. My neighbors know who I am because of my reaction to games like these. I was legitimately a little worried about my voice tonight. I'm glad it delivered. So phenomenal game, folks. Celebrate. You should if you're a fan of the Golden State Warriors. That was a big win. And in my humble opinion, indicative that this team should not be ruled out in terms of their postseason chances. I know the competition is stiff, but they got the talent on this roster, Kyle, and I really believe that. So yeah, Joe, I was screaming big time. This has been a borderline torturous start to the season. The Warriors are now just a game below 500. So bam, we're almost there, folks. We're almost there in terms of seeing our Warriors back to 500. Kylen, we're not going to see you again, I don't think, until Christmas. So Merry Christmas. And
thank you. Yes. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Everybody, I will see you next week after the holiday, but hope everyone has a good one. Absolutely. Right back at you and right back at everyone else. Yeah, and if there was one thing the Warriors were not tonight, they were not ignorant tonight. So I'm going to get a whole bunch of new sound bites for the show. I think we need that. Happy holidays, everyone. Kylen, great show as always. Steve Kerr, great job. Finally, I've been wanting to praise you for a long time, Coach. So I'm happy for that. Great job, everyone. Bye-bye. Feliz Navidad.